Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hope you're doing great and loving open source. And I guess you're making huge contributions this summer with GirlScript Summer of Code. Guys, show some energy in the chat box. Well, to begin with, GirlScript is back with yet another amazing speaker session, and I welcome each and every one of you to this insightful session. Well, let me kickstart this with an icebreaker question. Have you ever built an app that's not only cool but that has a real impact on the world? If not, then just buckle up because we have a rockstar Flutter developer with us, Akansha Jain, here to show us how it's done. Hi, Akansha. Today we have with you, and we're glad to have Akansha, a whiz with Flutter who has been coding for a positive impact for the past 2.5 years. Apart from this, not only she is a skilled developer, but she's a passionate advocate for diversity in tech. She's a Google Developer Student Club's leader, a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, and a Women Tech Maker Ambassador. Whoa, that's a lot, Akansha. Hats off to you. But Akansha wears them all with style, using her tech skills to empower others and a blaze of trail for women in the tech industry. She is also a Flutter Conference India and Delhi co-organizer and a technical speaker who is always eager to share her knowledge. So if you're looking for inspiration and practical tips on how to build impactful apps with Flutter, you have come to the right place. Akansha, a very warm girl script welcome to you. Over to you.
Hi, Ishil. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me in today's session. As you all know that today we'll be talking about will your code crack the cookie? So what does we actually mean by that? Why are we cracking a cookie instead of like coding? And if we are coding, then how are we going to crack the cookie, right? Have you ever encountered or have you ever had a fortune cookie? Can you just tell me in the comments if you had a fortune cookie before? As far as I know, I had one way long back. And to have today's session, I just thought about why not use that experience to crack something and, to code something and build something out of this, right? Let me know if you have ever had a fortune cookie. I'll just be waiting for like 1 minute. Hi, Atmaja. I am sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Okay, Aditi says she had a fortune cookie. That's nice. Do you know what a fortune cookie is? If you can tell me in the comments, please. Smith says no. Okay. Aditi, would you like to tell us what a fortune cookie is, maybe? It says in the name only, right? So what a fortune cookie is basically, you have a cookie, right? You go to a shop, you buy a cookie, a fortune cookie. So what will happen is you will crack it open, and once you crack it open, you will get a slip for your fortune of that day, basically. Yeah, fortunes are like, I don't know if they're misconceptions or something, I don't know, but it gives you great head start of the day, as I as in my opinion. Okay, Aditi says 10 cookies folded to contain a slip of paper on which a fortune is printed. Yeah, that is what a fortune cookie is. Okay, a Chinese cookie to predict a fortune for us. Okay, I don't know if a fortune cookie is Chinese or not, but okay. So now let's talk about what are you going to learn in today's session. So I know Aishal already gave you a very good introduction about me, but I'll just give you in a concise way. So, hi everyone, I am Akansha Jain. I am currently working as a Flutter developer. I am also a Women Technical Ambassador. In the past, I led Google Developer Student Clubs, and I was a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador as well. Currently, I'm a Women Technical Ambassador. I'm also the organizer of FlutterConf India and the co-organizer of Flutter Delhi. So all things about tech and all things about Flutter. And you can say all things about design as well. I love to talk about design, Flutter, community, events, and I love all these things in tech. Okay, so this is how your next, I think, 40 to 50 minutes look like. We'll be talking about what is Flutter, and then we'll be having this workshop where you will be able to crack your cookie. Sounds good, everyone? Please let me know in the chat. And if any way you get bored or something, just let me know. I'll speed up or I'll, try to make it as much as interesting as possible. How is Flutter in real? As in production apps, that we'll be going to talk about in a while. Uh, what companies are using Flutter and how is Flutter in real? But if you ask me, that then in my opinion, Flutter is something that I love to work with and talk about. Okay, I think there is a question: how GirlScript help us? So, Ashil, would you like to answer that?
Yes, sure, I'll take it over. So, GirlScript is a 3 month long open source program where you can contribute to various multiple projects depending on your interest, whether be it Flutter or you want to get into web development or anything else which you like. So, the projects are listed on our website. You can just check out them and you can make a meaningful contributions thereon. I hope this answers.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, Vinayak says let's crack. Okay, so before we go ahead, चलिए इस खेल को आगे बढ़ाया जाए, right? So everyone is excited. Am I excited? Yeah, probably yes. I am excited as well. Cool. So now, how many of you know actually what is Flutter, or are you in? Are you have you worked with Flutter, or are you a newbie, or how is Flutter related to you? Can you just let me know in the comments? Have you ever worked with Flutter? Is it new for you? Do you know about Flutter? Have you heard about Flutter? Atmaja says yes. Flutter is cross-platform application development platform. A bit correct, a bit incorrect. So Anushka says she's a newbie in Flutter. Okay. Okay, one of the person that I met previously has also joined. So hi Manik, how are you? The contributions for the Gold script is completed, or is there any chance to me for now to start contribution? I think what Ashil just said, I think you can still contribute to the projects that they have listed.
Yes, if you have already registered, you can contribute in till July end, and we'll be declaring the results in August first week.
That's great. Okay, Rishabh says, in what ways it's better than React Native? I'm going to take this question at the end, and if I forget, then just please let me know, Rishabh, again. Because to compare React Native and Flutter, the people who don't know about Flutter have to first understand what is Flutter, right? Okay, so now let's deep dive into what is Flutter. As I think someone said that it is a cross-platform development platform. So in that, cross-platform tech is fine, but it is not a development platform. Flutter is a framework, and the language that we use with Flutter is Dart. Okay, so basically, if we have to summarize in one line what Flutter is, then we can say Flutter is Google's portable UI toolkit for which with which you can build beautiful multi-platform applications. So as I already talked about Dart, Dart is the, we can say, language that we use with Flutter so that we can actually code in Flutter. So Flutter is a framework, and Dart is the technology, not the technology, basically the language that we use with Flutter. Okay, so we all know, as I already said, that it is a cross-platform app framework, app development framework, right? So when we say cross-platform, what we mean by that is, with a single code base, you can build applications for multiple platforms. For example, be it web, be it mobile, be it anything, right? So this is how, on the left side, as you can see, this is how your app will look like if you are developing a native app. I used to be a Java developer. I used to basically an Android developer. I used to build applications using Java. So that this is how my path used to be earlier, when I used to code in Java and build a native app, which is the Android app. And I have to, for example, if I want to create uh, an iOS app, then I have to use the Swift language, right? So I have to first learn Swift and then create an app for iOS. So if I want to maintain these projects, for example, I know Swift, I know Java, or I know Kotlin, and I'm developing a native app, then I have to, for example, I need to change a color of a button in my Android app, and I have to reflect the same change in the iOS app. Then I have to maintain these two different projects, right? But when I got to know about Flutter and its capabilities to do a lot more than what I was doing using Kotlin or using Java or using iOS, I got to know that I have to code only once and everything will be so easy to, like this path, as you can see on the right side of the screen, right? So this is what these two picture depicts. If you are developing a native app, then you have to maintain several projects. And if you are using a unique framework, as someone rightly mentioned, React Native or Flutter, then this is how maintaining a project will look like for you. So Flutter supports iOS, Android, web, Windows, macOS, Linux, and embedded devices as well from a single code base. Cool, right? So when we talk about Flutter, these four things comes in our mind. Flutter is fast, Flutter is productive, Flutter is open, and Flutter is beautiful. So what do we mean by each of these? Let's deep dive into each of these. When we say Flutter is fast, we mean that Flutter quickly compiles your source code to machine code. That is what we mean as Flutter is fast. Then when we say Flutter is productive, Flutter has a hot reload feature with which you can, in a millisecond, you can have your app change the color of the button, or as you can see here, we are clicking a button and the text is changing to like 1, 2, 3, 4 as many times as we're clicking the button. And this is all very fast, and that is why we say productive. Because when I used to develop apps with Java, I used to struggle for like a lot a lot of time of mine goes for development and then running the application. And because of this Flutter's hot reload feature, I can instantly see the changes in my app. That is why we say Flutter is productive. When we say Flutter is open, what we mean by that is Flutter is open source. You can go to GitHub and you can see what is going on in the Flutter community, what Google is working on with Flutter, and you can obviously contribute as well to the issues that are reported in Flutter. So that is why we say Flutter is open. And what do we mean by Flutter is beautiful? You can create beautiful applications with Flutter. You can create any kind of UI you want with Flutter widgets. That is why we say there are no compromises for your designers. Okay, so someone asked, how is Flutter in real? Okay, so if you just scan this QR code, I'll just share a link of this Flutter showcase. You will be able to see how many apps are built with Flutter and what kind of apps are built with Flutter. I am posting it in the chat, so you can just open it and I'll just go through this as well with you. Flutter apps in production. As you can see that Flutter at Google. So what are the products that are used by Google for that are created in Flutter. So you can see Google Pay, Google Earth, Google Ads, Google Classroom, YouTube Create, Google Cloud, Google One, Family Link, Crowdsource. There are a lot. Google Analytics, read along, right? So Google is using Flutter in these many products of theirs. Then if you see the user showcase, that what other companies are using Flutter, then you can see Universal Studios app is built with Flutter. And if you have seen the Google I/O this year, then they did actually showcase the whole story of Universal Studios. And I did use this app as well at the Universal Studios, and I had a very seamless experience. It is a very beautiful experience that I had with this app. So this is super cool. Then we have the Supercell, Etamax, Google Classroom, Alibaba Group, ByteDance, Tencent, Betterment, and BMW is also using Flutter. BMW, as I said, eBay, then Google Pay, we already talked about this, NU Bank, Dream 11, PUBG Mobile. How many of you love to play PUBG when it was not banned in India? I played it once, but I play COD now, so I'm not a very big fan of PUBG. I was not actually. Then Dream 11 and crowdsourced, as we talked about, Toyota. So there are a lot many apps that were built with Flutter, and this is how Flutter, looks in production. So let's come back to this. I hope you are like this after listening to what are the capabilities of Flutter, right? Because when I first heard about all of this, I was like this only. I was like, oh my God, these are so many apps and so many things to learn with Flutter, and its capabilities are like a lot. Yes, these are built majorly by Flutter. All these companies are using this. Okay, so are you ready to crack the cookie now? Let me know in the comments, please. I'll show you in a while what app we are going to build today and how can you build your first Flutter app, even if you're a newbie. Before we deep dive into, this workshop that we're going to do today, I'll just give you a little bit of context what we will be majorly using. So Flutter is all about with widgets, right? So if you go to a Flutter developer and you will ask him what is Flutter, the first thing that they will tell you is Flutter is Google's UI portable toolkit, blah blah blah. And then the other thing that they will say is that everything that you will be using in Flutter is a widget. Everything that you will see on your mobile screen will be a widget. Okay. So what are widgets? Widgets are the smallest UI components that you can use to show on the device screen. In a while, when I'll show you what app we will be building today, I'll tell you what are widgets and what kind of widgets we will be using today, and why are we saying that widgets are the smallest UI components. Okay, so just bear with me. As I said, Flutter is all about widgets, and the smallest UI component that you will see on your screen is a widget. So take for example, we are not going to build this today, but take for example, this is the UI that we want to build. Just for an example, Flutter can do a lot more than this. So, for example, if I want to build this UI in Flutter, then how am I going to build it? What is the path that I'm going to take is I will first create a scaffold. And what a scaffold is? A scaffold is the first widget that you will see on your screen. Okay, if you go to the back and if you see this purple container kind of a thing in the back of this is what is scaffold. So scaffold is like a canvas on which you can paint your widgets. So scaffold is a widget with on which you will be using your other widgets, text widget, container widget, that we'll be talking about in a while. So this is how you will be proceeding with. So scaffold is like a canvas. Then on that canvas you will paint an app bar. we all know what an app bar is, right? We are using our phones daily, and we know that the top most bar that we have is the app bar. Then on the scaffold only, we have a container. So this is kind of a widget tree that we are building. Okay, this is kind of a tree of widgets that we are building. That is why we are calling it as widget tree. On the scaffold only, we have two widgets. One is the app bar and one is the container. The container is shown in this blue, color. Then on this container, I have a column. So a container can only have one child, and that child that I'm using is a column. And a column is what? Column is a vertical array of widgets. And what are widgets? Widgets are like just classes that was created by Flutter team for us to use. Okay, scaffold is a class, container is a class, app bar is a class, column is a class, and we will be coding all this in the Dart language. Dart is an object-oriented programming language as Java and C++. Okay, so column is a widget, array of widgets. Okay, we can have multiple children, and children. When I say about children is a multiple widgets, we can say. Then in column, we have a row, which is a horizontal array of widgets. So in a row, we can align the widgets in a horizontal fashion, and in a column, we can align the widgets in a vertical fashion. So you can see in a column, the first widget that we have is a row, which have multiple children aligned in a horizontal fashion. And then we have a text widget as the second widget of that column. So now in the row, we have a text widget and an icon. So this easy is how Flutter is while when it comes to UI, creating a UI. Does this look easy to you? I know this is just a visual representation. In coding also, this is how it looks like. It's very, very, very easy. Okay, so I hope you are like this after hearing about widgets and how you actually lay out widgets in your mobile app, right? So if you want to learn about widgets and what are these widgets, how you want to enter the Flutter world, and what we just talked about, I have written an article on this. Uh, so you can just go ahead and go through these articles to understand what I just talked about. I'll share the links to you as well in the chat. If you see this, in this I have written everything about what is a widget and what is a widget tree, and the example that I just talked about, how are these widgets related to each other, and what are these widgets. Everything that I just talked about is here in this article as well for you to understand, and you just don't have to go through the videos again and again. Okay, then the other things that I mentioned, right? The other this thing articles, getting to know the widgetscape part one and getting to know the widgetscape part two. In these articles, I have curated a list of widgets in detail. What are those widgets and how can you actually use them in your Flutter app? So if you go to my Medium and see here, getting to know the widgetscape part one and getting to know the widgetscape part two, you'll be actually able to see what are these widgets that we just talked about in detail. Okay, what are the different kind of widgets, for example, scaffold, material app, and then what are the single child layout widgets, multi-child layout widgets. Single child, as I told you, a widget which has a single child, which is a container. Multi-child is widgets which have multiple children, for example, column, row, etc. I think I was not able to give you the link for the Medium article. So what I'll do is I'll just probably send you this here. Or if not, then after this talk, you will be able to get this links in the description of this talk. Cool. So this is what widgets are, and this will help you understand what we're going to build today. So now it's time for us to let's crack the code. Are you all excited? Finally, we are going to do that now. Will it be free to join Flutter? Can you explain this question more to me, as in what do you mean by that? Flutter is a Google's product, right? So if you're talking about contributing to Flutter, then yes, this is open, and this is an open source. So yes, you can do that. And GirlScript Summer of Code is all about that only, right? They have projects in which you are, learning to how to contribute, how to make your first contributions and everything. So yes, Flutter is open source, so you can probably do that. Now I'll just stop sharing and I will just share my VS Code instead for you to understand what we are going to build today. If you have any doubts regarding this, what we just talked about, then just please let me know. I'll just do one thing, just switch my screens for a while, and I'll just show you what we are going to build today. So the topic that we chose today is, will your code crack the cookie, right? As I already told you about, this app will be about uh, fortune cookies. Okay, I'll just go through some questions. Can we integrate third-party things with Flutter? Yes. If you go to pub.dev, I'll show you. We have third-party plugins that we can use to build apps with Flutter. Pub.dev. So in pub.dev, you will get third-party libraries with which, or you can say Flutter plugins with which you can integrate your Flutter app with. For example, I want to integrate Google Maps, okay, with Flutter. Then I have these plugins that I can use, but there are a lot of plugins, right? How do we decide which plugin I have to use? Oh, my mistake. I did a spelling mistake. Cool. So we have a lot of these, right? So which one to choose? So if you want to choose any of these, then you have to just go through the likes, then you have to go through the pub points, and then you have to go through the popularity. So if you see, we have Google Maps Flutter, which has 4,028 likes, 160 pub points, and 100% popularity. So this should be the ideal package to use. And if you go to this, you will see the README, how you have to integrate this package into your Flutter app. Then all the changelog, the Flutter.dev created this package, right? So whatever they are working on this package, whatever the changes, it will be mentioned in the changelog. Here is an example for you to understand how you can actually integrate it in your Flutter app, and then how you want to install it, the versions with this, the versions released since the time they have created this package, and the scores as we talked about this, right? So these are the things that you should go through before selecting a package for Flutter to integrate it in your Flutter app. Okay, so the next thing, I came just now, so I didn't know about what's going on. So what we are doing is we are learning about Flutter today, and we are going to build an app right now with Flutter. So I just explained what is Flutter, what are the widgets in Flutter, what is widgetry, and if you are just new, don't worry. With the app that we are building today, I'm going to tell you each and everything again, so it will be a lot more easier to understand. Okay, so now let's go back to the code that we are doing. I don't see any other questions. If you have questions, then just keep them coming. Cool. So as everyone knows, the first thing from where our application, you know, uh, is built, right? The execution or the start of the application is main function. When we first learned programming, this is the first thing that we talked about, the main function. So in Flutter also, you have this main function from where you will be running your app. And this my app, if you see, is a class which extends a stateless widget. And if you go to the stateless widget is also an abstract class which extends a widget class. And if you go to this widget class, this is an abstract class which extends the diagnosticable tree. So all these are built by the Flutter team. We are not going to get into the root of each of these. As I told you that as I told you, obviously, that everything that you see on this screen is a widget. So before deep diving into this, what we're going to build today, I'll just tell you that. So this is what our app is. Fortune cookies. You have to choose a cookie, and on the next screen, the cookie will crack open, and you will get your fortune of the day. So if you're excited, I'll just crack one cookie and see. Okay, I already did. So this is how my affirmative result for today is. Trust that everything happens for a reason. Yes, you should trust that everything happens for a reason. And this is how my life is. I trust everything which is happening around me, either good or bad. And I just accept that, okay, this might be happening for good. So cool. So now if I want to crack another cookie, probably this one. Your smile brightens someone's day. Yeah. Everybody's smile brightens someone's day. Cool. So this is what we are going to build today. Okay. Are you excited? Okay. So let's go ahead and start. So in my app, I am defining this material app. So what this material app is, okay, as I told you, scaffold is the first widget, but actually the first widget is a material app which initializes the Google's material library for you. So if you want to know what is Google's material library, then I'll just tell you. If you just search about material Google, then the first thing that you will get is this material design library that Flutter is using. So this has fonts, icons, a lot many things. As you can see in styles, we have this colors, icons, then some kind of animations, transitions, shapes, typography, which is again the fonts. You know, this is what is the material library that Flutter is using. Okay, so the first widget that we have is the material app to initialize that. Okay, this is what we are going to use in our app. Then this debug show checked banner, what it is if I just put it as true, then see what will happen. And what I will do is I'll just do a hot reload. Okay. And as I already told you, right, hot reload is Flutter's feature which will build your application in like milliseconds, and you will be able to see uh, color change or whatever we did on this screen. So just see this screen and see what will happen when I just hot reload. Did you see any change in this? I'm using a Mac, 16 GB RAM, as someone asked in the comments. So, did you see any change here in the application? Can you just tell me what is the change that you can see here in this application? What just happened? Or do you want me to just turn it as false and then true again, just to see what happens? I'll do it. I think you did not see it. So, now tell me what just happened. I set it to false again. If I just set it to true again, can you see the change? As in, if you see here, this debug checked banner that we have, right? This is turning on and off based on what am I setting this property to, right? So if you just hover over this, you will be able to see the whole documentation related to this attribute. Turns on a little debug banner and debug mode to indicate that the app is in debug mode. Okay, and if you don't like it, you can just turn it, set it to as false, right? I don't like it, so what I'll do is I'll just set it to false again. And if we can see in fraction of seconds or in fraction of milliseconds, right, we are able to see the hot reload feature come into action. Cool. Basically, what the hot reload feature and hot restart feature does is hot reload feature basically just builds this again. But the hot restart feature that you see here What it will do is it will start your application from the start. And the hot reload feature just builds this build function again and not the whole app again and again. So that is why hot reload is pretty fast when it comes to, Flutter. In Java or in Kotlin, I think they build the application from again and again. In Java, I'm pretty sure that this hot restart thing is similar to what we were when we are building applications with Java. This is how it happens. Everything starts from the start, and our app takes a lot of time to build with. So now this is not the front page, okay, that we have. If you see the title here, what I'll do is I'll just close this and I'll set this to Chrome. As I told you, that Flutter is cross-platform, so we can build applications for web as well, right? So why not just run this app in a web? So I'll just run it in Chrome and see what happens. You see this title, Fortune Cookies. When the web opens up, see the title on the tab of the web. You will get to know what this title is all about. See this? Fortune Cookies. The title that I defined here is visible on the tab of this. So this is my material app and I have this title here. Okay. So now I'll just close this, terminate the app, and I'll run it in mobile again because I want to show you how I am going to build this UI. So when I build this app from here, then hot restart is happening. Okay, hot restart, not restart. Basically, this is how hot restart works. The application will build everything from the start. Main will execute, then my app will execute, then home page, and the other pages related to the app that we have. So now let's go to the home page, which is actually this page. Okay, if I go to this home page, this is how my home page looks like. You can see my screen without any issues, right? You can see the code, you can read the code. If you are not able to read it, let me know. I'll just zoom in. I am going to code this app. I'm not actually doing the live coding because after a while it becomes boring. That is why I have the code ready, and I'll just help you understand how I built this UI. It's blur. Can you change your YouTube settings? Because I don't think so from my side I can do anything. Or maybe it's because of your internet. Now I am zooming a lot, by the way. Is this fine now? I think this is fine now. Cool. So what I just talked about is this build function, which is executed or which is rebuilt when we do the hot reload. That is why Flutter is pretty fast in reloading this. And then we have this home page defined in the home attribute of this material app. And this home page is this page that we are able to see. So now let's not go into the details first for what these list of items are and whatever this is. Let's just first code the UI. Okay. So this whole code that you see here is the Dart language. So Flutter is a framework. Always remember, Flutter is a framework, and Dart is the language that is helping Flutter to, you know, build your app, basically to compile your source code to machine code. Flutter is basically helping to convert your source code to machine code, and this is your source code is okay. So we have this scaffold, right? I already told you scaffold is like a canvas on which you will paint everything. And what I mean by paint is you will put all your widgets onto the scaffold. So the material app is holding this scaffold, and this scaffold is a canvas on which we'll paint all our widgets. And as you can see in the scaffold, I have put this background color as I have set this background color attribute as white. That is why you're able to see this white color. And by default, also the scaffold color is white. So if you don't define this, then it would be fine as well. Then we have this safe area. What does this safe area widget do is, you see here at the top, we have this camera. Okay, we have this time 6:40, then we have this Wi-Fi, and then we have this signals, and then we have this battery icon, right? So to I don't want my app to overlap with this area, right? Because if I just remove this, then what will happen? I'll just show you. If I just remove this widget and I just hot reload, okay, see what happened. This text is now overlapping with this, my the toolbar, I think you can say, right? This is overlapping with this, and it doesn't look good, right? Because for every mobile phone, for example, iOS or for Android as well, the orientation for a toolbar is different. So this safe area widget, which I just removed, this helps us to create everything in the body of the scaffold after the safe area, as in after the toolbar thing. Could we create algorithms in Dart for Flutter, Flow, drag and drop? That is something that we are going to take it at the end. Okay, cool. So now the next thing that we have is a center widget, and this center widget is wrapping a column. Okay, so what a column is, I already told you that a column is a vertical array of widgets, right? So this is a column that you can see here. This column have children, text as a children, and then padding. I'll just tell you in a bit what the padding is. I'll just tell you the basic widgets. The fortune cookies is a text widget. Then this is also a text widget. This is a container, the pink color container that you can see here. And in that container, I'm using a grid view. And in a grid view, I have some images of the fortune cookies, right? So this whole column is wrapped in a center widget is because I want this column to be in the center. Everything that I lay out in this column, I want that to be in the center. That is why I'm using a center widget uh, for my column to wrap. Cool. Then I have this text widget, fortune cookies, right? So what this text widget is doing, this is just displaying this text that I'm displaying here. Okay, and I'm just giving it a styling. For example, I'm setting the font size as 30, font weight as 700, and then I'm using a font family, Playfair display. And how I have to, set this font family is, first I need to download this from Google. Okay, so if you see, I already told you that we have a material design and we have Google Fonts as part of material design, right? In that, if you just search for Playfair display, you will get this two different kind of fonts. And if you just click on this, you will click on get font, and you will just download. It will download a zip folder, and from that zip folder, you will have different kinds of PDF files, regular ones, medium ones, italic ones, and so on and so forth, right? So what I have done is, I have created, if you see the folder structure here, right? I have this assets folder, and in that assets folder, I have defined this fonts folder. In this fonts folder, I have uh, I have this downloaded file called Playfair Display Medium.pdf because I want to use the medium one here. I have this file, and after that, what I'll go do is pubspec.yaml file. This is the configuration file where you will set your fonts, images, you will be able to see the dependencies. As someone rightly asked, can we have third party plugins? So, third party plugins are just the dependencies that you are going to define in your Flutter app. And if you want to define that Google Maps Flutter dependency, you will define it here. So, it gets integrated in your application. You can just go through the README and you will see probably that they're defining it here. Now let's come back to fonts. So in here, you can see we have this. So remember, this pubspec.yaml file is very, very, very You have to be very, very careful with the indentation of this file. These are just two spaces that you have to take care, right? So if you're just defining, then you have to just take care of these two spaces, right? I clicked on a tab, that is why just two spaces like this. Okay. If I just backspace this and I just put two spaces, then this will be rightly intended. So always remember, this is this you have to be very careful with the indentation of this pubspec.yaml file, because if the indentation goes wrong, your pubspec.yaml file will not run your everything, as in fonts or whatever you are trying to do, it will not do it for you. So you have to define the family that you will be using as a name in the text widget, Playfair Display. This name has to be same with this name, the family name. Is it blur right now as well? Can you just tell me that, please? Just wait for like 1 or 2 minutes. Is it clearly visible for you all? Okay, Atmaja says yes. So I think, yes, it's visible, right? And the question that Anant asked, I'll take it afterwards. Cool. So this is how you'll define your font. Okay, and in the asset, you have to define the path where you have defined the TTF file that you are going to use in your app, right? So as you can see, assets, fonts, and then the name of the file, the TTF file. Someone is using mobile pinch into Zoom. Yes, you can do pinch to Zoom. That would be fine. Okay, so this is how you're going to define your fonts. And this is how I am using this font family. If I just don't define any font family, see how my app will look like for this text. Flutter automatically, use, I don't know exactly the name of the font that they're using by default, but this is what they're using by default. So if you want to use a different one, then you have to do this. You have to define a font family in your pubspec.yaml, and then it will work for you. Then I have this sized box to give size between these two widgets. I'm using this sized box widget, and I'm defining the height for it as 10. Okay. Then I have this padding widget. So for example, I don't want to use this sized box, and I just want to wrap this text widget that we have, the other one, and give this a padding. So padding is basically, if you are from a web background, then you probably know about padding and margins and everything, right? So this text widget has some padding over it. If I want to show you, then we have this widget inspector as well, right? That you can use in your Flutter app. And if I just click on this arrow and then click on this, you will be able to see this whole thing uh, regarding to this. So if you see, I have this text widget, and in that I have defined a padding. And what padding I defined, I have it as a symmetric padding with horizontal will give you the left and right equal padding. So I have defined 8 pixels padding, so it is giving 8 pixels padding on the sides, right? If I define it as a vertical padding, then it will give me a vertical padding from the top and bottom. Okay, so if you want to see it in action, then I'll just probably define some vertical 10. This has to be a double or integer value, or whatever you want. Okay. Now, if I this doesn't update very often. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to just again do this. So if you can see, we have this uh, height. Sorry, not the height. Basically, the height and width, which is the 10 pixels on the top and bottom for vertical, and horizontal on the left and right, which is the 8 pixels padding. So this is how a widget inspector is very helpful when you have to, see what are the widgets that we are using in debug mode. Cool. So this is what is about widget inspector. So you now probably understands about padding. This padding attributes define the what kind of padding do you want. We have different kinds of padding. We have edge insets dot only, in which you can define different paddings on the top, bottom, left, right, whatever you want. And then symmetric, if you have equal paddings from left, right, and top, bottom. Then obviously this text widget is wrapped with this padding. So obviously this text widget has defined all the paddings for it. So you wrote choose a cookie and read the prediction. I'll just probably remove this vertical padding from here because we don't need it in the UI. Cool. Then we have, you can define maximum number of lines that this should take. Okay, if you want, if we have a smaller screen than this, then obviously this will wrapped into other lines. So you can define the maximum number of lines. Then obviously the style, you want this to be bold, you want this font size to be 22, and what font family you are going to use. Since I'm using a different font family here, I have defined it in the pubspec.yaml again, the same kind family, and then the fonts and the path for for the one that I'm using, Open Sans Light. I hope this is clear. Then again, we have a sized box because I want to have a spacing between this grid view, or you can say a container. Uh, okay, the next thing that we have is an expanded widget. So what an expanded widget does, as you can see, this is wrapped inside a column over the container, right? So I'm not defining the height and width of this container for now. I don't know how much space this container should take. Okay, what I want is, I want this container to take as much available space on the screen as possible. So I am wrapping it with an expanded widget so that it takes as much available space that is in the screen, so that I have the pen color all around it, right? So I don't have to basically define the height and width of this container. The expanded widget will take all the space that is available. Cool. That is why it is taking all the space that is available. Okay. Then what am I using here is a grid view. So grid view can be of different types. As you can see here, I have this commented code, right? This commented code that we have is gridview.count, and the other variant that I am using currently is the gridview.builder. So what is the difference between gridview.count and gridview.builder? Gridview.count, I've already written this documentation for you as well. Gridview.count, what it does is, it will, since you don't know the exact number of fortune cookies that you want to show on the screen, right? Since you don't know the exact number, that is why I'm using the gridview.builder. But if I know the exact number of cookies that I want to show on this screen, that I'll be using a gridview.count, and I'll be defining the cross-axis count. Cross-axis count is this, the number of columns that I want. For example, if I define it as 2, then there will be 2 columns. If I define it as 3, then there will be 3 columns. 3 columns and 2 rows, because we have 6 cookies. Okay, I don't know what just happened, but yeah. Then we have, we'll talk about this cross-axis spacing, minimum axis spacing. But if you see here, I have to define the number of children that we have. Image.asset, 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 image.asset. And as a coder, this is not how things should work, right? As in, this is a repetitive code, and as a coder, we always have to take care that we have to write good code, and good code doesn't define, having repetitive lines of code. So to optimize this, I created a items list that I'll show you in a bit. But first, let's come back to this gridview.count. If you know the exact number of count, then you will be using this. But if you don't know the exact number of fortune cookies that you want to show here, then you will be using a gridview.builder. And to align this in the center and to have some padding over it, I just wrapped it with a padding widget. And I defined the vertical and horizontal padding, the amount of vertical and horizontal padding I want on the sides and on the top and bottom side. Cool. Then gridview.builder, this is ideal, as I told you, when you don't know the exact number of children that you want to display. So you'll be defining the item count. And I have this items list, which is a list of image. As you can see here, what this code does is this thing. And I already told you that writing repetitive code is not a good practice, right? So what we did was, we used this generate function and wrote one line of code. So what does this generate function does? is it will act as a growable list, or it will act as a for or a while, or any kind of loop that you are going to use, right? So if you read the documentation for this, what it does is it generates a list of values, and we are defining the number 6 here. What it does is it defines the number of images or objects that you are going to show on the screen. So it will go from 0 to length minus 1. For example, if you have defined the length as 6, then it will be like from 0 to 6 minus 1, which is 5. That is why you're able to see 6 cookies. This cookie that we have is with index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 0 to 5 is 6. So that is why we are defining this as 6, and then it takes an index. So if we understand it in terms of a for loop, you can say you have to return an image dot asset on index 0, which is this, then on 1, 2, 3, 4, and till what it will go till 6 minus 1, which is 5. So that is why this code is written here, and this is all pure Dart language. So Dart has this generate function, which acts as a which basically generates. This is basically a function that will generate. It has two parameters, the length and the generator, right? And it is just a growable list kind of a thing. So if you want to read about it, then you can just go to this and read about this. So Dart has this inbuilt generate function. So this is what this is all about. And if I go back to where I using this in my grid view, this is where I'm using it in my grid view. Here, items.length. So I'm defining the length. So basically this will return the number of items in my data source, and my data source is this list of items that I just showed you. Then the other thing that we have is the grid delegate that we need to define. And what a grid delegate does, it will define how you want to lay out your grid. Okay, here we are using this silver grid delegate with fixed cross axis count. Uh, Cross axis just defines the number of columns. Okay, and since we know the number of columns, that is why we are defining this. We have others as well. For example, silver grid delegate with fixed number of fixed cross axis extinct, and there are others. If you go to the grid delegate property on Flutter docs, you will be able to see. So we have different kinds of silver delegates that you can use. For now, since I know the number of columns, I'm using this one, and it will define the number of columns. It will define the cross-axis spacing. So cross-axis spacing is the spacing between these two columns. Minimum axis spacing, mean axis spacing is the spacing between the two cookies that we have in a horizontal fashion. For example, if you can consider it as a row, then the spacing between the two rows. Then we have this item builder callback function, which takes the context and index. Context is basically this screen. Okay, context is defining that in this screen I want to do things, and for this context will be this grid view that we have. Okay, the widget, the current widget is the context here. Okay, then we are defining the index. So this callback function takes the context and index as arguments and returns the widget to be displayed at the specific position in the grid. So index will define the specific position in the grid. For now, just forget about this gesture detector and everything. Just remember that this item's index is the one that I'm going to show as in the item that I'm going to return in this item builder, because I want to show the list of items on current index, right? So this is how this home page is laid out. Do you have any doubts with this home page? I'll come back to this gesture detector in a while, but other than that, with the UI, everything is clear. How much days does it take to learn Flutter? I'll come back to this in the end. But if you ask me, and if you do it like if you're just solely doing Flutter and not anything else, then I guess probably 2 to 3 months. With utmost importance with Flutter, you can learn it. It will take just 2 to 3 months if you know object-oriented programming language. I already knew Java, so it was very easy for me to learn Flutter. Okay, so I think this is clear. Now let's see how can we navigate to the other screen. As I told you, clicking on this fortune cookie will navigate me to the other screen. But this fortune cookie is just an image, right? And how am I getting this image, right? I talked about this image.asset, but how am I getting this asset image? This asset image is, kind of a same how we defined fonts, right? So if you want to use an image from your project, then what you have to do is you have to first you have to create the assets folder and then the images folder in that, and then you have to put your image in that, and then you have to define your image in the pubspec.yaml like this. You have to define the assets and then you have to define this. Why am I not defining like assets slash images slash open cookie.png? Because I don't want to write each and every path again and again and again. I want to include all the images that we have in this images folder in my app. That is why I'm just putting the path of assets slash images slash and nothing else. So this will define that, okay, whatever image that we have here, use that in my project. Okay, so that is how am I defining this image.asset here. So this asset will image.asset, and then it takes the path where your image is defined. And here I have defined assets slash images slash fortune underscore cookie.png because I just want this fortune cookie.png to be displayed here. So this is how I'm getting this image. Now let's come back to how on clicking of this, we should navigate to the other screen. So for that, we have this widget called gesture detector. Gesture detector, what this widget does is it has this on tap function. So you are using a mobile app, right? And you want to tap on this fortune cookie and go to the next screen. Then you will tap on it, right? So this function, sorry, so this widget has this on tap function on which you can define what needs to be done. So what I want to do is I want to randomly generate a fortune and navigate to the other screen, build that screen, and then show that fortune there, right? So for now, don't bother about what are we showing on that screen. Just bother about how are we going to build that screen, right? The UI of that screen. So how am I going to navigate is using this navigator dot push. We have push pop, we have push named, we have so many kind of navigation in Flutter, so you can just probably go to the Flutter documentation and read about it. Okay, so what we define in this push function is a context is again that widget that on which we are going to do that thing, and the route. Okay, and here I am defining the route as material page route, and which I have to go to the this fortune screen. This fortune screen is nothing but my other screen that I have created, which is this screen. So now see what happens. If I go to this, if I click on this and go to the other screen, then I just come to this screen. Now you'll understand how to build this screen, which will be very easy for you because you know how you have created the homepage screen, right? I'll just go to this fortune screen, and in here, I'm again defining a scaffold. Okay, in the scaffold, I have a safe area. In that, I have a column wrapped in a center widget. And then I have this text widget, and I'm giving it a padding, defining it as fortune cookies, giving it some styling. Then to give it spacing, I'm using the sized box. Then I have this padding widget, right, over this text widget. I define these two padding widgets, which I don't need. I can just define one and it will justify the purpose. So I don't need to have these two padding widgets. I just define one. And probably I'll just do it like 23. And then I'll just, so we have this error. This is not an error. This is just a warning where it asks you to use a const constructor, right? Const modifier. What this const modifier does is, I already told you, right? This build function, when we do a hot reload, this build function is built, right? But in that build function also, just to optimize our code, we can define this const attribute, or you can say modifier, so that when we are building that function, these lines are skipped, right? Because this is constant. Our Flutter code or our Dart code knows that, okay, I don't have to define and I don't have to build this widget again, because this is defined as constant, right? So this is what this const modifier does. It creates a widget that insets its child. It's very easy to understand. It's just that this const modifier will tell the hot reload feature that, okay, you don't have to build me again. I already know what am I doing, and you don't have to do it again. So you see, there is no change in the screen. I was just irrelevantly using two pattern widgets, which I don't need. So this is how it works. Then we have this text widget where it says, here is the affirmative result as your answer for today. Then we have max lines, text style, sized box. You can just probably go through this. I have this code on GitHub, so you can just go through this. I'll share the link afterwards. So the one thing that we need to understand from here is this. Now, for this container, I don't want to use the entire available space. I want to define the height and width. But I'm not just using this Google Pixel 6, right? In real life, I have different kind of Android phones. I have Redmi, I have this Samsung, I have different models, different screen sizes, different kinds of everything, right? So what I'll do is I'll define this height like this. So what will this does is it will define this media query. Media query is nothing, just what do we say, as in it, the people who have worked with web already knows that it will just establish a subtree in which the media queries are given the data. For example, if you just use this media query dot size of context, then this will give you the whole this thing, the height of this screen, right? Media query dot size of context dot height will give you this height of this screen. Context is giving you that screen. It context means here that we are defining to that part of the tree where we have this screen. Okay, so this will give you the whole height of this current context, which is this page, this widget, fortune screen, and we are defining it by dividing it by 2.5. So I want to lay out it in like I want to do with whatever size that I have, I want to divide it by 2.5. For example, if I just define it as 4, okay, then see what happens. The height is now reduced, right? So this is how it works. You just have to use whatever you want, like this. Then for width, I want the entire width of this screen. So I used this, and I'm not dividing it or multiplying it or not doing any calculation like this. Yes, media query makes your website responsive. So it will obviously help you in Flutter as well to make responsive things, to make your app responsive basically. Then we have this image.asset for this cookie that I have on the container. Then sized box, then again the same thing, text. So this text that I have, right, this fortune, this is a string that I'm displaying, and this string is coming from the previous screen on which we have this fortune cookie on top of which I get the string and I display it here. That I'll come back to you because that is a logical part. And now we are dealing, currently we are dealing with the UI part. So I'm not going into the details of this. Logic part is very easy to understand, that I'll do after the UI part. So maximum lines I'm defining as 3 because we can have a bigger fortune as well, as in different lines of fortune. So I'm defining it as 3. Then we have the sized box, and then just to create this button, I have this outlined button. We have different kinds of buttons in Flutter. If you go to flutter.dev, I'll just show you, just a second. Here. So if you see here, flutter.dev, how I know about all of these things, on flutter.dev slash on docs.flutter.dev, you have this Flutter documentation from where you can learn about the widgets and everything that we have, right? So for example, I go to this widget catalog. I have these assets, image, icons, basics, interaction modules, layout, components. And here we have, for example, I go to the basics. Here you have this app bar, column, container, We have this button as well, right? So this is an elevated button. Similarly, we have different kinds of buttons. We have outlined buttons, we have we can say text button, we have a lot many kind of buttons. So this is an outlined button, and what outlined button do is just it will give you an outline over the button, right? So you can just style it, you can define the side the border color, you can define what kind of shape does this outline button should have. I have defined it as a rounded rectangular border. You can define it as a rectangle border, and this rounded edges will not be there. Then you can define the border radius. I've defined it as it should be circular and it should be 8, right? So I've defined it in that way. And this is how this outlined button works, okay? And in this outlined button, I want to define a child, and in that child I'm defining it as a row. So this is a single widget, okay, single child widget. Outlined button is a single child widget, and to have multiple children in that, I will use a widget that which is a multi-child widget, for example a row. So since I want to have two widgets, one is this back arrow icon and one is this text widget in a horizontal fashion. That is why I'm using a row. And I'm going to define this as main axis size dot minimum, because if I don't define it, then see what happens. Uh, it will take the entire this thing, right? We have not given it how much space it should take, right? So it took the whole space. So I want to define it that okay, you have to just take the minimum available space that we have. So that is why I'm defining this. Then we have two children. One is the icon, the back arrow icon. You can define the color, size, height, everything for that icon. This is a widget, icon widget. Then I want to have some spacing, so I'm using a sized box. And then we have this text widget, which is this crack another one open. And on click of this, what should happen is I should go back to the previous screen, right? So that is why I'm using this navigator.pop, and I'm defining the context. Context is the current widget, okay? So this current widget, I want to pop this current widget that we have. So that is why I'm using a pop and not a push. So on click of this, it will just navigate to the previous screen. It will just pop one screen from the stack of screens that is available. Since we have just two screens, one is the screen, and the on click of this, there is another screen on the stack. So it will follow the LIFO principle. Last in, first out. I hope this is clear to you. Now, the one thing that is we are left with is just creating the logic for defining a random fortune. Okay, I just don't want to define like, okay, if I click on this, I should get opportunities are plentiful, and if I click on this, I should get today's your lucky day. I want to generate it randomly. If I click on this again, I should see other fortune and not the one that I got previously. Good fortune is coming your way, right? So this is the other fortune. So I randomly want to generate different fortunes, right? So for that, what I'll do is I'll just go to home page again, since on this page I am navigating to the other screen. On that, what I'll define is I'll define a random function. So Dart has this random function defined in the Dart math library, which will randomly generate numbers for you. Okay, and I have this fortunes list defined. So if I go to this, I have this list of fortunes that I have defined. And whatever fortune that you are seeing on the other screen is coming from this list of fortunes that I have defined, right? We have only 6 cookies, but we have like 20 plus fortunes defined there, right? So what I want to do is I want to randomly select any one fortune from here and display it on the other screen. And how can I randomly select it? I can randomly select it like this. I'll just create a variable random fortune, and I'll store the random fortune from that list in here. So since this is a list, right, I will have this square brackets, and in that square brackets, I will define the index that I need from that fortune list. And to do that, I have this fortunes.length. So fortunes.length, what it will do, it will return the length of the fortunes, for example, 20, right? And what this next int function does is, for example, you have this next int 10. just read this. Generates a non-negative random integer uniformly distributed in the range from 0 inclusive to max exclusive. So again, 0 to length minus 1. For example, if we have fortunes dot length as 20, right? So it will randomly generate any number from 0 to 19, and from that index, we will have a value here. For example, it randomly generates a number 5, and it will be like this: fortunes and 5. So we will get this, and we'll go to the fortunes list, and from that we'll just do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the thing that we will display on the other screen. Okay, good fortune is coming your way, we will see it on the other screen. But since this is Dart is randomly generating it, I just gave you an example that it may be generated a random number called 5. So this is how this is, storing the fortune that I got. And this, if you see, it is of string type. We are not defining any uh, type here for this variable. It is automatically taking it from what we are returning it, right? And then while going to the next screen, I'm defining that, okay, I have this constructor here for this fortune screen, in which I'm defining a string fortune, and I want to pass this random fortune string to that screen, so that on the UI of this screen fortune, I can see it. So in the text widget, I'm returning this fortune. So this is how I am able to see this fortune. It randomly generated a number from the length of the fortune list, and then from the random number, I selected a fortune. Basically, in the backend of what is happening, it selected a fortune and it displayed it on the next screen. So this is how this whole thing is created. This whole app is created. Is it clear to you? I know I talk a lot, but I hope this is clear to you, right? Is there anything which was not clear to you? You can let me know in the comments if there is anything which is not clear to you. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and wrap up this session. And if there is something which is unclear to you, what you can do is, I'll suggest you to go to this GitHub repo. Okay, I'll just give you the link for this GitHub repo. In this GitHub repo, I have this whole code. What if random number generated is greater than the length of list? It can't. This is what is this next int function that we have in Dart takes care of. This will definitely generate a number from 0 to the length minus 1 of the length that we have. Okay, it this next int function will take care of that it should be in between the 0 to length minus 1, as in 0 to the fortunes dot length minus 1. Okay, I can't post I think here the GitHub repo, so I'll just share it with the team, and they can probably drop this in the comments. Or if I can just share my GitHub profile, I think you will be able to go through this repository. I can't. Aishal, can you just, I don't know if I'm able to pronounce your name or correctly or not, but I have shared it to you. Can you just put this in the comments?
Yeah, sure, we'll do this.
Okay. So after this call as well, in the YouTube description, obviously, you will get this link. And here, if you go, I have this README. Okay. In this README, I've defined everything, how you have to, clone this in your own system, how to run it. And you can just go through this profile, sorry, the repository at this README. And in here, it will just tell you how you have to clone this repository. and how you have to navigate to the project directory and then install the dependencies. Okay, there is one thing that I forgot to mention you. Whenever you add any third party library or whenever you run any Flutter application, what you have to do is, I'll just clear this. What you have to do is, you have to write this command, flutter pub get. What this will does is, it will go through your pubspec.yaml and it will go through the dependencies, all the fonts, images, the dependencies that you have, third party libraries that you have, defined here, and it will automatically integrate it in the app for you. So remember to mention, sorry, to run this flutter pubget command so that you get this dependencies in your app. Okay, that is why this thing is mentioned here, that you have to install the dependencies using this command flutter pubget. Then if you want to just run this app, you can just write flutter run. You can just select any device, and once the device is selected, be it Chrome or be it your mobile, you can just type flutter run. I'll just not run it right now because I already have this running. You can just write flutter run and it will run this app for you. So this README would be very helpful for you if you want to clone this repository and run this in your app, in your system. And if there are any doubts regarding which you can't understand, I have already included some documentation here. What else you can do is, you can just hover over this and read from the Flutter docs what this function does, what this widget does, whatever you want to learn. Okay, so this is very helpful for you to understand this whole code again. Okay. So now let's come back to the slideshow that we have. Okay, so if you want to learn Flutter, you can just follow this article. I have written an article, Kickstart Your Journey in Flutter, and you can just use this. And I'll share everything with the team, because for some reason I'm not, it just says the comment has failed. So what I'll do is, I'll just share everything with the team and they will put it in the description after this. For Flutter docs, if you want, then I'll just share it with you. It's just docs.flutter.dev. Just remove this, docs.flutter.dev. I'll try if I can just send this to you. Yeah, I can't. So you can just write Flutter docs, and the first link that on Google will show up will be the one that you are going to use. Flutter, why am I writing this wrong? Incorrectly. Okay, Flutter docs. The first link that you'll get is the Flutter documentation. So this is how you can get. And regarding the Medium links, I'll just share it with you again, my Medium. In here, you'll see I have written a lot many articles. Yes, on Instagram, I'll tell you. Okay, I don't have permissions. That I'll check. Okay. For some reason, I'm not able to share the Medium as well. But after this call, everything will be available with you. So this is my Medium. I think if you just write Medium Akansha Jain Flutter, you'll see the first link. Yes, this is the first link that you will see. So I have written a lot many articles on how you can manage your assets, the Dart extension methods, the FVM. There are a lot of Flutter versions that comes up every now and then, right? So how you have to manage in each and every of your projects. You can just read this article. Then the Flutter team is improving their Flutter engine, which runs on the backend of the Flutter. Earlier it was Skia, now it is Impeller. So this is what you can read about from it here. Then these are the articles. Obviously, you can go through each of these and learn Flutter. Cool. So this is the article that I was talking about for learning Flutter. Basically, you can just how you want to start your journey. There are some resources that I have defined: the official docs, widget catalogs, Dart docs, code labs. We have a lot of Flutter code labs, okay, with which you can learn Flutter. When I started my Flutter journey, I I just I did this course, okay, this complete 2021 Flutter bootcamp. I did this. Then I did some of these code labs. Okay. Then I joined an internship, and then I got to learn a lot more into the industrial part of this Flutter and everything, and basically Flutter apps in production in my internship. So this is what was my journey was all about. First, I used to work with Java as an Android developer. Then I was told that okay, Java is depreciating. Then what you are going to do next? This is not Java is depreciating for Android. Okay, so Kotlin is the next thing that is going to come up. So what you're going to do? Then when I was exploring my uh, horizons, what I can do next, I came upon Flutter and Kotlin, and there I tried Kotlin, but I didn't like it that much. When I tried Flutter, I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do because a single code base can do a lot more, right? So then I started with Flutter, and I just told you, right? This bootcamp I did, then this code labs, and on Twitter I'm very active. The Flutter community is very helpful there. If you have any doubts, you can just post your doubts, and probably within an hour you'll get your doubts resolved. So the Flutter community is very good. So you can have all your doubts handy with you and just probably ask the people there. So this is the article. If you just scan this, you'll get to that link. Okay, so do you have any questions? I shared my journey. I'll just go through the questions, I think, which I told that I'll take it at the end. Could we create algorithms in Dart for Flutter Flow drag and drop? To be honest, I'm not sure about this because I have never tried creating algorithms in Dart for Flutter Flow drag and drop. So I am not sure, but probably I'll try to do this, and you can just reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram, and probably I'll help you there. But I have to try this, and then I can get back to you with an answer. And I do we have any Do we need to download Flutter? Yes. So to use Flutter, you have to download the Flutter SDK, okay? And you have to have the Flutter project. For example, you downloaded the Flutter SDK, right? And you put it on the desktop directory. So you have to create the Flutter projects directory in the same desktop directory where your Flutter SDK is present, and then create all the projects from there. So basically, your Flutter SDK and the this thing, Flutter project has to be in the same directory that you have. What are the resources to learn Flutter easily? As I told you, right, you can just go through this Medium article, and the easiest way that I started with was to do this course, the Angel IU course that we have on Udemy. This course is the best. And if you want to, probably I don't know if I need to tell you this or not, but if you want to get this course and like cheap price, I think you can just go to Incognito, and instead of 4,099, this course should be cheap. Sometimes this happens, right? When you go to the Incognito window, this price gradually decreases. You can just go to Telegram, or you can just purchase this course, okay, whatever works for you. I, when I started my Flutter journey, I completed this course, and then I moved on to the other things, as I told you. Simultaneously, I was in touch with this official docs as well. Wherever I was not able to understand anything from this boot camp, I used to go to the official docs. I used to learn how the widgets are created, and how the compilation is happening, what kind of widget am I missing, or whatever, right? Then the Dart docs are also there if you are a newbie, and if you don't know any object oriented programming language or anything, and if you want to learn Dart, you can just go to this Dart docs, and you can learn Dart from here. Then I did some Flutter code labs as well. The comments of that course said it was not latest. But it doesn't matter whether it was not latest or not, because if the course is not latest, okay, then you will probably get some warnings on your Flutter this thing. in your Flutter code. Okay. And when you will read those warnings, right, you will be able to understand that, okay, this is the warning that I'm getting. Then I'll just Google it, and on Stack Overflow, you will get the answer. So this is how this whole learning curve will go on for you whenever you are and it's not just for Flutter, right? Even if you're learning something new, and if you're learning anything, not just Flutter, if you're learning web, or if you're learning anything, what is the first thing that you will do if you will get an error, or if you get a warning, for example, a deprecated warning or something like that? You'll go to Stack Overflow, you will understand, okay, this is what I have to do. So this is how the learning curve goes, like, right? And you can just probably go to Flutter docs and say, okay, this is the text button that says the color property is deprecated. So what should I do? You will go to the text button, you will see the whole documentation, and you will see, okay, now the color property has changed by the name of color name, something like that, right? So even if the course is not latest, you can use this course to learn. Okay. It's not like it will hamper your learning process or anything like that. And I think it will actually enhance your learning process, because when you will get into errors, you will actually come to other people and say, okay, and this is the error that I'm facing issue with, can you help me with that? And this is how you'll make connections as well. Flutter is has limitations in web, it's in beta only. Then how can we work around for successful web application? Flutter is, definitely working on the web side of it, right? Because I know Flutter has this lag issue, for which WASM support is now introduced in Google I/O for by the Flutter web team, right? So it's not, workaround, as I can say. In generally, I can't suggest any workaround for this, but for example, if you're building a web application and you have this lag where you have a lot of images in your web app, right? So to work around that, what you can do is you can just pre-cache your images, or you can just reduce the images so that the lagging, so this is the workaround. So there will not be a lot of lagging, right? So this is a workaround, right? So the workaround depends on the use cases of what you want to do. Okay. So for example, I gave you this web application has a lot of images, and the lagging issue is coming up. So the workaround will be to pre-cache your image, or probably you can just reduce the images. So these are the kinds of workaround that you can uh, create. Any other question that you have? Scaling images and pre-cached media would help with lagging issues. Yes. Okay. So if you have any other questions, just put in the comments. Okay, and I'll probably go through all the comments and your doubts for which you have, and I'll just probably try to answer this in the comment section. So if you want to connect with me, you can just scan this QR code, and you will get to my link tree. And my link tree has all the links with which you can connect with me. I have my own website is built in Flutter if you want to see it. This is all built in Flutter. Okay, all this thing is built in Flutter. So Flutter has a lot of capabilities. Okay, so you can see my own portfolio is built with Flutter, and I don't see any lagging issues there. Cool. I have shared my link tree with you. Okay, you can just use this to connect with me. And recently, I have created an Instagram account of my own, where in which I will just share tech content and upcoming opportunities, be it with community events, be it with jobs, be it everything that I'll get. Okay, I'll just share everything there. So probably if you can connect, if you want to just go there, and uh, if you want to follow me, then you can just follow me. I'll share everything here. Cool. Okay. So yes, Impeller is better than Skia. So I always say this at the end of the session: believe you are halfway there, and keep fluttering to the finish line. And I hope this gives you the motivation to learn Flutter. Thank you, everyone.
A huge thank you, Akansha, for joining us today. We were all captivated by your insights on Flutter development, and I'm pretty sure that the audience gained invaluable knowledge from your presentation and the live demo you presented. Apart from this, thank you everyone who joined us for this session. Your active participation and insightful questions made this truly engaging discussion. And I hope Akansha's talk sparked your creativity and ignited that passion for building Flutter applications. Apart from this, GirlScript Summer of Code will keep you indulged with more speaker sessions and get ready to learn, collaborate, and make a real difference in the open source world. I and other program managers, along with the organizers of GSOC, can't actually wait to see the incredible projects you develop and contribute to. We look forward to seeing you all in the future GirlScript events. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Akansha.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining in, and I'll see you in the next event. Take care. Bye bye.